Hey everybody, it's Bricky. I know you can't see my face right now. I know, it's a national travesty. Hopefully there'll be a holiday for my poor face cam. But anyway, I wanted to talk today a little bit about the new voice changes in For Honor. I know pretty much everyone ever has had their opinion on this rather recently, and it has been expressed in a pretty what's the best word I can say it? People don't like it a whole lot. That is the general consensus. And so I wanted to kind of do what I like to normally do, which is take a step back up just a little bit, do a little bit of deductive reasoning, ask a little bit of why, and really kind of put some time into thinking, hey, what are all of these like voice changes? Like, where are they coming from, or where are they coming from, I suppose? Why are they happening? And my personal issues with some of them. Now, let me go ahead and start off by saying that I don't think every voice change is bad. Surprisingly enough, Lawbringer still sounds really cool, and he doesn't sound as much of like a total old man with arthritis when you're fighting him as much. Normally, Lawbringer just sounds kind of goofy, and I guess it's kind of the reason why we like Lawbringer. But for most of his new lines, they sound pretty okay. You know, some are hit and miss, but I kind of like it. He sounds like a big, manly, tanky boy, and that's pretty cool. Some of the other ones are okay too. Fem Warden doesn't sound terrible in my opinion. Male Warden is something we can talk about later. Let's not get into that one right now. The new Kensei, male Kensei that is, and male Orochi I'm pretty okay with. And funny enough, it seems like Shaman barely got any changes, and I mean that's fine I guess. Shaman sounds fine, but you know. Anyway, those are some of the light things that I don't think they're all bad. In fact, in a sense, I don't think that all, save for a few of the voices, are necessarily like a bad voice acting, you know? I think with the exception of a couple characters, most of it's serviceable, you know? If this was the stuff we got when the game shipped, I don't think any of us would be entirely complaining too much. Now, there are a couple issues that I do have presented, mainly when it comes to Duel. The little, I don't know, Mortal Kombat style-esque quips they have at each other generally feel rather forced and a little bit uninteresting. And more importantly, hearing them speak English is kind of the thing I'm not a fan of at all, and that we can talk to a little bit later. For now, I want to talk to the why. So, why are they changing these voices, and what could be the reason for changing these voices? Well, there's a couple of different possibilities for that. The number one is voice acting talent got too expensive. So, as we all know, they kept the same voice acting talent for all the characters for a bit. And you can see that just based on execution-wise. You know, they use the same sounding people for all the executions, even after the character came out, all the way into the last season. So when Valk and Warden got their rework, which was Season 7, the season we are currently in, everyone still had the same voice actors and actresses. You know, you can look at Gladiator and realize that it sounds the same, but it's a different sound file, so they're not just reusing sound files. So, with that, that means as of at least a few months back, maybe 3, 4, 5 months, I don't know how long it takes for the executions to come out and such and fully be developed. I don't know when the voice acting talent finishes their project, but they have the same actors and actresses. So the question is, why no more of them? And this can be 3 to 4 different reasons. Number one is cost. Now, as far as we all know, Warden is voiced by Liam O'Brien. Liam O'Brien is a very popular voice actor, and probably not a cheap one either. So that right there, you can imagine having him to constantly come back for all the different new executions and moves could be kind of a costly thing. And as well as so many of the other characters, there is the possibility that they are asking for more money than Ubisoft wants to pay, and that is a common thing. Now, if you ever remember the first Iron Man movie, I believe his name was Terrence Howard. I'm very bad at some actors' names, but Terrence Howard, I believe, played Rhodey in the first Iron Man, and then it was changed to Don Cheadle, and that was apparently because Terrence Howard wanted too much money for the role, and so they chose somebody who they didn't have to pay as much, and I guess Don Cheadle was that person. So that happens quite commonly, you know. It sucks, but it happens. Reshoots, recasts are a thing. The second is a kind of a union, a workers union, workers guild, however you want to say it. So apparently there has been a more of a guild or some kind of like workers union, just like any other union in any other industry for voice actors and actresses. And there's a possibility that a lot of the people that they worked with could have joined that union and have been a part of that, and Ubisoft just simply doesn't want to deal with that because let's be honest, when it comes to the employer, unions are of course a good thing to have, absolutely, but it can be quite taxing for the developer or publisher, and they don't want to continue having to work with said union or meet certain demands. And a lot of times those demands include pay, so that kind of ties into the first one. After that, there are a couple other options where hiring other actors could be cheaper. So these new voice actors and actresses could be cheaper and therefore push it into long term. But if I had to personally stake my reason for why this is, I think it's a combination of the payment and the guild and the need to redo the whole thing. Now, for instance, imagine what it'd be like if just Kensei, Fem Warden, and Gladiator, only those three variants ended up getting voice acting changes because just those people ended up leaving or joining the guild or asked for more money, right? So then Ubisoft is in this kind of weird situation where do we just change just those voices and then with a different actor or actress, or do we change up the entire cast? Like, what is the big difference? And for me, if I'm looking at this from a business point of view, the best way, especially if there's a lot of little back and forth issues going on with some of the voice actors and actresses, is to go ahead and recast every character with a cheaper one and therefore do a complete overhaul that's better for your long term. And what better time to do the overhaul than Marching Fire? This is obviously the best time to do so. So by doing so, you're able to completely revamp the voice system to make it seem like you're making big, interesting new improvements to the game. You are saving money by hiring cheaper than the other people were asking for, voice actors and actresses. And it allows you for a clean slate to really go ahead and move forward. Now, this is what I believe is the most probable option. Now, obviously, you really can't get a response from anyone, and I know there was a lot of anger towards the For Honor developers for their response to the situation. And I watched the response, and the only thing I could think of was that sounds extremely corporate. And it sounds very much like a person who is upset that they either have to change the voice or they're annoyed with the situation they were put in, and their only option they have is to say some kind of corporate answer. It's kind of like when you want to do something, but you don't want to say why, or you can't say why, and someone keeps badgering you, like, hey, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And then you eventually just turn them and say, because I goddamn feel like it, okay? When it's not actually, I feel like it, it's just, you can't really say it, and you get angry about it. And, you know, developers are, of course, people too, and that's exactly what I see. I see a corporate response from somebody who either was having a lot of issues lately with the game, and they're frustrated, or something of that nature. And, you know, let's be honest, the 4R community is not the nicest of communities in the world. They can be quite toxic at times, especially towards the developers. So, that is my personal reasoning or understanding for it. Now, there is, of course, the possibility that they just want to change the voices because they like these voices better and they think these voices better suit the game. And that is, of course, a possibility. But if they are going to do that, I'd like to put some caveats. There's some things that I want to look towards first. The main thing is dialogue. Now, as far as I am concerned, none of the new voice people do any kind of Latin, Icelandic, Japanese voice acting, or maybe some, but not much, in the game. And it may just be me, but certain executions, Lawbringer's Knock Knock, Centurion's Roman Uppercut, Warlord's Head on a Platter, Valkyrie's Shield Grab, when they speak their native tongue, when they speak their native language, it sounds incredible. It is some of the coolest shit in this game, and I really love hearing the native tongue. which is why the English vocals and the little quips and duel matches throw me off so much, because it's just not what I expected. The only time I've ever heard the heroes speak English is in the For Honor campaign, and even then, you know, it's just not for very long. But hearing these little English quips with these accents and stuff, it just doesn't fit in this game. It doesn't fit. For Honor is kind of a goofy game at times, but it's under the guise of a sort of quasi-realism. Now, obviously the game is not realistic. Your shoulder turns onto fire when you do a charge as Warden, and you also get propelled 40 feet. But it's kind of that funny thing where it's meant to have this sort of like quasi-realism vibe to it, even though it's not. And I think the voice acting really helped with that. A bunch of shouting in Latin, or I don't know if it's Icelandic or whatever it might be, but all the different languages during moves and stuff really gives it a large amount of identity. And the removal, I mean, of course, in the game, during the actual fights, you still hear ad mortem inimicus and all that stuff. But when it comes to things like executions, removing them just feels like a real detriment. I really like the sound of it, and it sounds really good. That's kind of one of my biggest gripes, to be perfectly honest, but sometimes it just doesn't fit. You know, Lawbringer has that new, like, sound he makes in his execution versus his old knock sounding, which it's just better. It just sounds a lot better to me. Now, of course, there are some things that are different, like the Lawbringer's head on a... Is it head on a platter? No, it's the Warlord one. The execution move, I forget the exact name, where he shoves him twice. That sounds, in my opinion, a lot better with the new voice. It sounds a lot more fluid. It sounds better. And I will give them credit where credit is due. I personally like that one a lot more. But then there are the other outliers, like Male Warden is very Prince Charming sounding, and I'm not a very big fan of that. Gladiator turned into Slav. Don't really know where that came from. And Nabushi is just the most angry anime girl on the planet. And it's just these things that kind of feel like they take away the identity of the character. And also, this is probably the biggest thing that I have the strangest kind of I'm perplexed about, is why the voices? Well, I mean, like I said, if this is a thing regarding, you know, a union and pay and that change, that makes complete sense. I get that. But if it's not, if they just wanted to change it for the sake of changing it, why the voices? Because, listen, I love For Honor. I love playing the game, but there are a myriad of issues with the game, most of them relating to balance. But of all the things to change, I feel like the voices were the last thing that anyone complained about. Like, hearing Highlanders say Don Maglas, hearing Ad Mortem Inimicus, hearing, what's that other one? Oh, of course, Centurion, you know, Incredibilis, or what is it? Incontinence, Incredibilis, Infirmos, and Etiam, I think? I don't know how it's said. I butcher Latin. But those are the things that became memes. Those were the things that were the most exciting for Honor. Those are the fun types of stuff for the game. And removing those, of all the things, just seems like a huge misstep. I really don't know the why that of anything. Now, I wanted to make this video mainly because, like I said, I wanted to do deductive reasoning. I wanted to back up. I wanted to talk a little bit about it. You know me, I'm not an outrage person. I hate outrage culture. I despise it. I'm outraged about outrage culture. But of all the things, like, with the voices, I wanted to see, like, let's think why are they doing it? Let's see the reasons. Let's back up. Let's ask, you know, the different possibilities that happen for it, and also, of course, you know, what are my opinions on it. Now, my opinions are some positive, mostly negative. The dueling quips, if I could turn that off, I would love that. But at the end of the day, I just like a toggle. You know, like if you have to do it, if it has to come out this way because people are, you know, the workers thing, or because the hiring of the new voice actors, or the old ones leaving, if that is the main reason, I would simply ask that you allow me to toggle it on or off, or at least allow me to toggle it on or off, with the exception of the new ones. I'm sure some of the new executions will need a, you know, need to be voiced and stuff. And I'm fine if that's the case, but at least let me keep my old ones. At least let me keep my old ones and keep the in-game fighting sounds the same, or at least turn off the dueling quips. That's personally my opinion. You know, if at the end of the day, if it is because of payment and stuff, we as a community can't really. I don't really know what to do about that, because at the end of the day, we're kind of just stuck. Just shucks. You know, that's really unfortunate. I mean, you can try your best to get the old voices back, but at the end of the day, Ubisoft is not just developers, they're also publishers, and hey, the wallet talks, and if they are asking for too much, then I can't fault Ubisoft for not wanting to do it. So, with that being said, hopefully it's not that, and it's just a personal mistake or a misjudging of the community, and they can revert it. If it's not, then oh darn, at least some of the good ones are really good, and maybe I just got to get used to it, because change, you know, no one likes change. Anyway, thank you for watching, everyone. I hope that this has been a little bit more of a calming video in this situation, and we'll see what happens. Either way, I'm excited for Marching Fire. I'm very curious to see how it'll turn out, and I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.